In this video, I'm going to go over all this information here in this first note-taking box, where we look at writing equations of circles, graphing circles, using different information to write that equation, taking that information and finding different characteristics of the circle, like the circumference or the area. All this stuff is going to be very algebra heavy, so I think you'll start to see the connection also from previous units when we end up using this equation of the circle, which is based on essentially is the distance formula. Okay, let's try a couple first. I've got some questions on here because there are a lot of questions on this note-taking guide. I do not have time to do all of them just because the video would be too long, so I'm trying to keep it somewhat short. It will still be a long video in terms of my library. So make sure you check back to Canvas, the key, to figure out, check out the other questions I don't do. All right, so here we go. The first one. We're given the equation of a circle. All right, and the first thing I notice is ask for the radius, which I'm going to look at this 25. Now, that is not the radius. That is the radius squared. So if I take the square root of 25, my radius is 5. Now, for the center of the circle, you'll notice in the equation, we have x minus h, and we have y minus k. So like we've talked about on previous formulas, that if you have subtraction there, we need to think opposite when we write the center. So I see x plus 4, which is going to be actually a negative 4, and y minus 2, which is actually a positive 2. So this is what I'm going to use to graph this circle. So there's the center. Now to find the points I need to graph this, I'm just going to count 5 units from that center in 4 directions. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 1. And then I'm going to make my circle. And do your best here, right? It's just a sketch. I'm not that worried about this being like the best circle that you've ever graphed. Just try your best to finish the circle. All right, so there is my circle in number 1. Let's look at number 2. Now, number 2, I have my r squared is 4, so the radius is going to be 2. And for the center, all right, I have x minus 7, which is a positive 7. And then y doesn't have a plus or minus in parentheses, so that means my y value is going to be 0. So this center is actually on the x-axis. So there's the center. Counting 2 units in those 4 different directions will allow me to make this circle. All right, and so there's number 2. Again, I'm going to skip some questions as we go in this video, but check back for the key on Canvas and you'll see them finished. All right, so the next section says to basically answer the questions they're asking based on these equations and give exact answers. So if we end up needing to use our number pi in any of these, we're just going to leave it as pi. We're not using a calculator, so we can just leave our answer. If it has a pi in it, great. All right, so the center of the circle, I'm going to say the center is -7, positive 2. Now the diameter, right, that's 2 times the radius. So I'm going to use this 324 to find the radius. So the radius squared is 324. If I take the square root of both sides, that would give me the radius. All right, and the square root of 324 is 18. All right, now that's not the diameter. The diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So the diameter is equal to 2 times 18, which is going to be 36. All right, so the diameter is 36 units, and the center is -7, 2. Let's try number 8. All right, center of the circle again. So center of the circle is 6, -11. It does ask for the radius this time, which means I'm going to take this 80 and take the square root of it. All right, I'm going to break that down into perfect square of 16 times 5. So my radius is going to be equal to 4 times the square root of 5 units. Okay? Okay, go to number 9. Number 9 says to find the center first. The center is -2, -9. Now the circumference of a circle, right, the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. Or you could do pi times the diameter. So or pi times the diameter. I don't care, it's your call. All right, so in this case, I'm gonna probably choose the 2 times the pi times the radius, just because I'm gonna find that radius. So my radius is equal to the square root of that 196. And the square root of 196 is 14. That is a perfect square. So to find the circumference, I'm going to do 2 times pi times the radius of 14. So that is going to be equal to 28 pi. All right? So that is how we find the circumference. All right, I'm going to go to the next page and try number 12, last one in this section. So finding the center, the opposite of that, so -7, comma, -2. It does ask for the area. The area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. Now we actually know the radius squared, right? This right here is the radius squared. So I'm going to say the area is equal to pi times 108. All right, so the area is 108 pi. Okay, that is it for that section. Let's go to the next section. It says to write each circle with the given information. So 14 says here's the center. Okay, we can write that center now. Remember, using the that equation of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. I need to think opposite. So x plus 2 squared plus y plus 11 squared is equal to the radius squared. Now, they don't give me the radius, but they do give me the diameter, right? The diameter is 18, and I know that the radius is half of the diameter. So my radius is equal to 9, all right? And then to plug in to get my answer, I'm going to square that. So 9 squared is 81. So this is the equation for 14. Let's do 15, all right? Again, when you're doing these questions, get in the habit of writing down that equation every time. So here is my equation for the circle. I'm going to plug in my center, so x plus 4 squared. We talked about this earlier on one of our graphing ones. If you don't have, like if you have 0 for your x or your y, you don't need to write y minus 0 or y plus 0. Just write y squared. And my radius is the square root of 47. But I do want to square that, right, to get radius squared. And when you square that square root, the radical symbol is going to go away. So it's just equal to 47. Okay, let's do the next one. Again, I'm going to have my equation for the circle. There we go. Copy that. Okay. I already know the center, so I'm going to write down x plus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals, now to find the radius, I am going to have to use this circumference formula of 2 times pi times the radius. So the circumference is 6 pi, which is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. Now I see pi's on both sides, so they're going to go away. And to get that 2 to go to the other side, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So my radius is equal to 3. Now that's not what I'm putting into the equation, because remember, it is the radius squared. So I'm going to put 3 squared in there, which is 9. All right, one more on this page. All right, so now it's telling me I have a center. I'll go ahead and put that in there. X plus 8 squared plus y plus 11 squared. We're given the area, and the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So 16 pi equals pi times the radius squared. Again, like I did in the last one, I see pi, so I'm going to cross it out. Now you could find the radius by taking the square root of both sides, but I'm just going to leave it as the radius squared, because remember, from my equation for my circle, I do want the radius squared. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it as r squared is 16 and replace that right there. So that is it for 17. Okay, now we can do 18 real quick. I didn't put a little blue dot by it, but we should do it just because it's the only one where you write it from a graph. So the center is right there. So that center as an ordered pair is 1, 2, 3, comma, -2. And then the radius is where I'm just going to count the distance. You can count any direction you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the radius is 5 units. So writing down my equation to plug in what I know. So there's my equation. I'm going to plug in my center is going to be x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 25. The radius squared would be 25. Okay, now, quick little recall section before we get into our last ones. I'm almost finished with the video. But if you recall the distance formula, a midpoint formula, it'll help you with this. I'll be honest with you. You actually, because the equation for the circle is derived from the distance formula, you can use either one. All right, I'll confirm with the geometry team to make sure you know exactly what is expected when you do these questions. So I'm gonna kind of show both ways and we'll decide later on what we're gonna do. Okay, so the center of the circle is 9, 10, which is, I'm gonna say right there, 9, 10. And then the point on the circle is 7, 4, which I'll say is here. All right, so drawing that circle, so I'm gonna draw it around. Again, it's just a sketch, probably not gonna be a great circle. Anyway, there you go. So if I'm gonna write the equation, right, I need the center, which I already know, right? They gave me the center, which is great, all right? But I also need the radius, all right? So if I connect these points, right, that right there, that distance between those points is going to be the radius. So you could use the distance formula to find that radius. I'm gonna show you a different way by writing down the equation for that circle first. Okay, I'm going to plug in what I know, which is my center. So x minus 9 squared plus y minus 10 squared equals the radius squared. Now, I actually do know a point on this circle, right? They gave me this point on the circle, which is 7, 4. So I actually can put this into my x and my y, and that would allow me to solve for my r, my radius, or my radius squared. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 7 minus 9 squared plus 4 minus 10 squared. And I'm just trying to find the radius squared because I know that this is my answer, but I just need to know what the radius is. So that's going to be -2 squared is 4. -6 squared is 36. So 40 is equal to the radius squared. So my answer for number 19 is x minus 9 squared plus y minus 10 squared, which is equal to 40, the radius squared. Now you'll notice I didn't technically use the distance formula, all right? But again, if I were to just take the square root of this r and the square root, of that r squared and square root of this side, right? It would look just like the distance formula, just instead of a d, it's r, right, for the radius. All right, so again, I'll talk with the team and see what our plan is for that and what's accepted, but that's how my brain sees it. Okay, let's do 21. This will be the last one we do. I'll do this with the actual distance formula. Okay, so I'm going to plot -14, +1. And then I'm going to plot -10, +9. And it says that that is a diameter. So they're on the circle. All right, I'm going to try to find the one where it'd be the center, would be here, right? Connecting it is the diameter. Okay, so I'm going to use the midpoint formula to find the center first. You don't have to do this first. You can find the distance between them if you want, but midpoint formula will tell me to add the x's. So -14 plus -10 over 2, and then 9 plus 1 divided by 2 would tell me the midpoint or the center of the circle is going to be -12, 5. So the center is -12, 5. Now I'm going to find the distance between these 2 points, which would give me the distance of that diameter. And then I want to cut it in half to find the radius. So I'm going to have the change in my my x, and square that. Change in my y, and square that. All right, so distance here is going to be -14 minus -10. We'll square that. And then 1 minus 9. We'll square that. So that's going to be Negative 14 minus a negative 10 is really adding 10. So that's going to be, that's going to be a negative 4 squared, which is 16, plus negative 8 squared is 64, which is the square root of 80. Okay? Now, I do want to cut that in half, all right? Because the radius is going to be the square root of 80 over 2. And then I want to square that, right? I want to do the radius squared is the square root of 80 over 2 squared. So if I square that, hopefully you know that when you take the square of a square root, that's going to go away, just leaving 80. And then 2 squared in the bottom is going to be 4. So r squared is 80 divided by 4, which is 20. So to write my answer, I'm going to write down the center of the circle, which is x plus 12 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 20. Now again, that's not the only way you could do that, right? As I said in number 19, you could actually, once you have the center, you could use the equation of the circle, plug in one of the points that's on your circle, you've got 2 of them, and you could use that to find your radius squared. All right, so lots of different ways to do this. Whatever way your brain sees it, go with that. All right, check Canvas for the key for the rest of them. Come see us if you have any questions.